After finding 5 magic collars, a group of puppies gain superpowers and have to save the Earth from an alien invasion. Today, we're going to recap the story of the movie Super Buddies from 2013. At Fernfield Farm, a boy named Bartleby comes into the kitchen to have breakfast with his grandfather Marvin. While the old farmer prepares the food, Budderball, the puppy of the house, asks to have his meal. Lebby then takes the bag of food and puts it in the dog's bowl, finding the last Inspiron ring inside with the yellow ring. Lebby has now completed his precious Inspiron collection, which is inspired by a famous comic book. While Budderball eats, the boy starts to draw a comic book. But his art isn't as good as he'd like, and Bartleby laments to his grandfather that he'll never make it as a cartoonist. Marvin then tells his grandson that he needs to practice and that no one becomes a professional overnight. Encouraging the boy to keep trying to help inspire him, Marvin delivers issue number 1 of Kid Courageous and Captain Canine, an extremely rare comic book. Excited, Bartleby begins to read the story about the planet Inspiron in a galaxy far, far away. Because of the powers of the Inspiron rings, the planet spent several eras in peace and security. But everything changed when Commander Drex arrived with his fleet of intergalactic pirates. As the villain wanted the power of the rings, the royal family entrusted the artifacts to Captain Megasis, who suggested taking them to Earth, the most distant habitable planet they knew. Despite the princess's concerns, Megasis set off in the direction of land, even with Drex's ships behind him. To fulfill his mission, Megasis placed the rings on a deactivated torpedo. As Drex approached, the captain fired 2 torpedoes. The first hit the evil commander's ship squarely, while the second passed through the side and headed towards land to dash Drex's hopes. Megasis accelerated his ship against the commander's cruiser, causing a huge explosion and making the villain think that the rings had been destroyed in the process. At the last second before impact, the captain managed to escape in an escape pod and also headed for land on the planet Earth. The torpedo with the 5 rings fell on a farm, which coincidentally looks a lot like Marvin's farm. Before Blebby can continue reading, Sheriff Dan arrives, accompanied by some of the boys' friends who coincidentally also have golden retrievers. While the 2 groups are talking, one of the girls asks about Marvin, who suddenly appears coming down from the barn on a zip line, face down in the hay. Before the party starts, Grandpa gives Bartleby another present, a superhero costume for him and Budderball. Now that everyone is dressed in character, Marvin decides to start a treasure hunt among the children while their guardians play. The golden puppies also wander around the farm in search of treasure, ending up in the barn, where they find something shiny on the floor. When they dig it up, they find the 5 Inspiron rings, which start to levitate and fit around their necks, acting as collars. Thinking that this is the treasure they were meant to find, the puppies return to the humans who are about to eat cake. Seeing Budderball's new collar, Bartleby immediately recognizes the Inspiron ring and asks if the dog took it from his bag. But when he checks his backpack, he finds his own exactly where they were. Confused, the boy just ignores it and continues celebrating his birthday, showing his friends the comic book he got as a present. Now that everyone is together, Bartleby reads the rest of the comic and discovers that Captain Megasis's escape pod has crashed in the backyard of a house. Curious about the noise, a little dog goes into the yard to investigate and finds Megasis, who believes him to be a human and copies his appearance to disguise himself. As soon as the alien does this, the police and fire department arrive to investigate the crater and ignore the dog next to the hole, letting Megasis leave without any problems. After some time searching for the rings, the little alien dog is crossing the street when he is hit by a little boy on a bicycle. After the impact, Megasis complains that it's not his lucky day, and the boy is impressed. Noticing his confusion, the alien asks if that species doesn't speak, and Jack replies that it doesn't, saying that only humans can do that. Even though it's crazy, the boy offers to help the imposter dog and decides to take him home, teaching him to bark so that his mother doesn't suspect anything. When she sees the dog, Jack's mother feels sorry for abandoning him and agrees to adopt the alien. Over the next few weeks, Megasis tells Jack all about the history of his people, and he loves to draw and write comics to illustrate what he hears. While searching for the rings, Jack and Megasis decide to become heroes and fight crime together, becoming Kid Courageous and Captain Canine, even without the powers of the artifacts. After reading the story, Bartleby tells him that there is a rumor that everything written in the comics is real, but that they will never know if it really is. At the JS Comic Studios, Megasis discovers that the rings have been activated by someone. But for some reason, the signal isn't continuous, so they can't trace it. Jack then remembers that they've already had a false alarm, and Megasis suggests waiting a little longer to be sure. The next morning, Budderball wakes up hungry and his collar starts to glow, making him extremely muscular. Using his extra strength, the little golden retriever manages to rip off the fridge door and steal the pepperoni from inside. In the city, B-Dawg is playing basketball with his human when he manages to stretch his body to make an insane dunk. Far away, Buddha is floating during his tutor's yoga session, and Mudbud has developed the ability to turn invisible to escape the bath. Watching her tutor's soccer match, Rosebud sees that the referee hasn't called a foul and uses her super speed to score a goal for her. By using their powers, the puppies emit the signals to confirm to Megasis that it wasn't a false alarm. But it turns out that Commander Drex is also looking for the artifacts and goes ashore as soon as he detects the waves. Unaware of the danger they're in, the five Goldens arrange a meeting to talk about what's going on and show off their powers. Taking advantage of Buddha's powers, Budderball asks him to make a hot dog levitate to his mouth, while the little dog with super strength is eating his snack. Someone steals a lady's handbag, and B-Dawg decides to interfere, stretching his body to make the man fall. The puppies realize that their new collars have given them superpowers and decide to join forces to fight crime. While walking through the city, the canine quintet finds a cat stuck up a tree. Despite this, the feline says she can't be saved by a smelly dog, and B-Dawg suggests they leave. But Budderball says they can't refuse to help someone just because they don't like them. The puppy then builds up muscles and uses his super strength to knock down the tree, which accidentally falls on the sheriff's car. The cat gets out safe and sound, and the kittens escape before the policeman notices them. In JS Comics, Jack manages to locate the use of the rings, and Megasis says he will go to Fernfield while the human stays to monitor the readings. Walking through the streets of the town, the Goldens notice that the sweet store is open, even though it's nighttime. Curious, Budderball approaches and finds two thieves stealing the sweets. Together, the five of them go to the criminals, who begin to mock them. But that's only until Rosebud uses her super speed to tie one of them up with a licorice rope. Budderball then spits dozens of balls at the other criminal, who falls on the sweets with a penknife. The woman threatens the dogs and cuts the licorice that is trapping her partner. But B-Dawg stretches out his paw to knock her down. Frightened, the other thief tries to calm the dogs down, but Mudbud turns invisible and does an insane underpants on the bandit. Thanks to his telekinesis, Buddha makes a cauldron of caramel levitate towards the bandits and leaves them all licked, finishing with a bucket of M&Ms on top of them. When the sheriff arrives, Rosebud releases the store owner, and the quintet runs out of the place. Just then, a reporter arrives and asks the man what happened. But they don't believe him when he talks about the superpowered puppies. The next morning, Drex arrives on Earth and lands in the middle of Marvin's farm. When he gets there, the commander says he's going out to find the rings and leaves Monkey to protect the ship outside. Drex is walking along the pig fence when he sees one of the animals. Thinking it was a human being, the villain takes on the appearance of the animal and ends up being hit by a bucket of potion that Marvin throws. Seeing the human, Drex says that he has come to take over the Earth and get the rings, which makes the farmer leave in despair, not believing that he has heard the pig speak. As soon as the human leaves, Drex orders Monkey to make the ship invisible and sets off in search of the rings. In his office, Sheriff Dan is eating candy when he gets a call from Marvin, who tells him about the talking pig in the ship and his pigsty at the farm. The greenish pig climbs into Marvin's truck and starts driving around in search of the artifacts. Because of the hooves, the commander can't control the vehicle properly and hits everything in front of him, almost hitting the sheriff's vehicle. When Dan arrives at the farm, Marvin becomes suspicious that he too is an alien and goes into hiding. After confirming that he is the sheriff, Marvin takes him straight to the pigsty, where he realizes that the green pig has disappeared and that there is no ship in the place. Dan then says that Marvin has been out in the sun too long and recommends that he wear a hat to work. In the city, Drex sees an alien doll in front of a diner and starts talking to his supposed colleague, asking for help in finding the ensign rings. Inside the store, the attendant doesn't understand what he wants, and Drex is furious, attacking the doll, which explodes into 1,000 pieces. At the farm, the children arrive and start talking to the sheriff, who tells them about what Marvin saw. Believing him, the boys run to the pigsty, while the sheriff goes to attend to a car crash. When they arrive at the place, the boys realize there's nothing strange, but that's only until Bartleby enters the enclosure and starts looking for the ship. At the scene, the sheriff finds two cars that collided while trying to avoid Drex, who crashed the truck into a concrete fence. Dan asks his dog to bring a rope and manages to lasso the greenish pig, tying him up and taking him to prison. Back at the farm, Bartleby manages to find the ship and press the button that makes it appear. While the boy tries to remember where he recognizes the symbol on the ship, Monkey receives an alert about the little invaders and activates the protection system, delivering a shock that sends Bartleby tumbling backward into the pig's mud. When the others approach to help him, Monkey makes the ship invisible again. Thinking he knows what's going on, Blebby tells his friends to follow him and rushes off to the barn, leaving Monkey alone in the pig pen. Wandering around the city, the super puppies find a girl trapped in a burning house. Without thinking twice, the puppies go to the apartment, and Budderball breaks down the door, managing to get to the girl. Buddha then displaces the smoke, and they have a clear path, but only until the ceiling gives way, blocking the exit. Buddha tries to remove the rubble, but it's too heavy for him, while the quintet thinks of a way to escape. Megasis appears in the middle of the flames and is surprised to discover that 5 dogs have managed to find the rings he has been looking for decades. With no time to lose, the alien captain asks the human to hold onto his neck and begins to guide her to the exit, bringing her safely to her mother. After the rescue, the girl tells everyone that she was saved by super puppies, confirming the candy store owner's story and turning the new heroes into celebrities. Now that the girl is safe, Megasis says that they need to learn to control their powers and asks where they found the ensign rings. When he learns that it was at the farm, the alien dog warns that Drex must have traced where the signal originated and that everyone at the farm is in danger, telling them to hurry inside. Bartleby starts checking his comics for the symbol he saw on the ship, identifying Drex's logo, and finally realizing that the puppy's new collars are Inspiron rings. At the prison, Drex calls the sheriff, who approaches him to investigate. Not believing that the pig is talking, the human ends up getting too close and is hit by the alien, who switches bodies with him. Free, Drex starts walking towards the exit, when the boys arrive to tell him what they've discovered, accidentally revealing that their dogs have the ring. When Drex hears this, he asks them to hand over the pets, and the group finally realizes that this is the alien. At the police station, the dog arrives with his snack when he hears the sheriff's voice inside the cage. As he approaches, the police dog recognizes the sheriff and starts talking to him, who finally understands his barking. At the farm, the puppies offer the rings to Megasis, but the former captain replies that the artifacts are now linked to them and will remain so until the end. Because of this, Megasis has no choice but to train the puppies to defeat the villain, starting a real exercise marathon. With his help, Mudbud learns to make others invisible, Budderball trains to become stronger than a bull, Buddha also develops his telekinetic abilities and is able to make several cows levitate at the same time. During the night, the fake sheriff arrives at the farm with the children, which gets the puppies excited, but Megasis warns them to be careful, warning them that Drex could switch bodies. The fake sheriff then gets out of the car to talk to Marvin, but Bartleby warns him that he is an alien, and the alien commander is forced to knock the human out. With no one to stop him, the invader locks the 5 kids in the barn, but Bartleby has all the Captain Kind comics in his backpack and decides to use the time to find a way to defeat him. Outside, the evil commander is using his ship to lure an asteroid to Earth. To stop him, Megasis asks the puppies to stay hidden and says he's going to face him alone. Without the power of the rings, there's nothing the captain can do but dodge the villain's power rays. Trapped in his canine form, Megasis rushes at Drex and manages to knock him into the mud with a kick to the chest. With Drex down, Megasis goes to take one last bite out of him but is hit on by one of the villain's rays and falls unconscious. Even without Captain Kind, the puppies don't give up and decide to take on the villain together. When Drex tries to hit them, Buddha uses his powers to create a shield that reflects the blows. After getting up, Drex once again tries to hit them with his shocks, but B-Dawg manages to defend himself with his rubber body, which is immune to electricity. Still, the villain doesn't give up and tries to throw tools at them, but Rosebud defends using her super speed to throw everything back. Despite her efforts, the villain emerges completely unscathed and ready for another round. Budderball then prepares to attack and goes after the villain, hitting him with a headbutt that knocks Drex unconscious. Thinking he's lost, Monkey celebrates the fall of his commander, but he soon gets up and attacks the traitor. Tired of wasting time, Drex picks up a tractor to throw at the puppies, and Buddha has to hold the object with the power of his mind. With his companion about to give in, Mudbud makes everyone invisible. When Buddha lets go of the tractor, inside the barn, the boys continue looking for a way to defeat the villain, rereading the first issue. Bartleby remembers that Megasis tricked Drex and decides that they should do the same. While the puppies run to the barn, Marvin appears in a superhero costume and uses a lightning rod to electrocute Drex, allowing the puppies to run to the barn. Wanting the rings, the villain breaks down the door and enters the place where Blebby offers the artifacts in exchange for him leaving the Earth in peace. The alien then says that he doesn't make promises and steals the rings, reminding him of the asteroid that is coming. The villain then leaves the barn and starts walking towards the ship. When the pig sheriff shows up to arrest him and asks for his body back, tired of this appearance, Drex complies with the request and returns Dan's body to its true form. With the rings, the villain enters the ship and pilots it away from the Earth. But the 5 objects begin to freeze, and he soon realizes that they are made of plastic, revealing that he has indeed been tricked by the children. While trying to figure out what happened, Drex doesn't realize that he's heading towards the asteroid and collides head-on, destroying both the asteroid and his ship. At the farm, the boys see the explosion and start celebrating. When Jack arrives, concerned, the man asks for the Captain Kine and despairs when he sees his body on the ground. While the man laments, Bartleby shows him that the rings are still safe and recalls one of the stories in the comic. It shows that when they are together, the 5 artifacts have the power to heal. Without a second thought, the boys put their collars on the super puppies, who gather around Megasis, causing a great light to emanate from him. When the flash goes out, the alien dog regains consciousness and thanks the super puppies for their help. While everyone is celebrating, an extremely bright ship appears, and the Princess of Inspiron descends from it, introducing herself and thanking everyone for their help in defeating Drex. After rewarding the heroes, the princess takes the 5 rings and asks to speak to Megasis. Using the power to make her captain return to his original form, upon seeing his best friend's true appearance, Jack thanks him for his company, and Megasis returns to the planet Inspiron with the princess and Monkey, who asks for a chance to redeem himself. After everyone leaves, Jack hires Bartleby to help him write his comics, setting the boy on the path to his dream of becoming one of the greatest comic book artists. What do you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. If you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next.